guys, ETJ Writes here. Today is April 1st, which means that it is time for Indie April. Indie April was started a few years ago on Twitter as a way to celebrate indie authors of all kinds. The way it works is that authors and readers on Twitter will say, hey, I'm looking for indie books to read this month, and then people go in the replies and link their books. If you're an indie author, I definitely recommend you check that out because it's a great way to promote your book without feeling like you're being obnoxious about it. But I wanted to get on here on YouTube for you guys today and talk about my books that I've written as an indie author. The very first book that I've written is Tedenbarr of Have Lath. I really love how the hardcover version came out. I think it just looks so glossy and shiny. And it really plays well on camera. Like any good adventure story, my novel has a map in it, and you can follow the titular character as he makes his way around the kingdom and tries to get back home. It's definitely my baby, the first book I ever released out there in the world, and I'm just so happy to be able to feature it in Indie April for everybody to fall in love with. As a little treat for you guys, I will read a very small passage from Tedenbarr of Have Lath. This is a section where he fell into some trouble and he is trying to figure out how to get his way out of it. Tedenbarr pushed Kalir into a gallop, pulling ahead of the bandits enough that they lost sight of their pursuers for a brief time. He had precious few seconds to direct Kalir into a tight turn that went straight up the mountainside, before pivoting her around onto a lower spur and racing full tilt towards the edge. Immersing himself completely in the moment, Tedenbarr calmed his breathing and focused on Kalir, giving her a signal he prayed she understood. Relief washed over Tedenbarr when he felt the mare gather herself. Here we go, he thought, forcing himself to fully focus on the horse. And then they were flying, a perfect arc executed with an easy grace well suited to his nimble steed. As soon as the pair gained the ledge, Tedenbarr wheeled Kalir about, riding to a large outcrop that would hide them from the sights of those on the narrow path below. One of my favorite things about adventure stories is when you have a horse to accompany you, and so Tedenbarr has his trusty steed Kalir, and together they get into all sorts of adventures. The second book that I am featuring for Indie April is Thorin, and if I had a hardcover of this, I think it would photograph really well on camera, but you just have to believe me when I say the colors really pop when you look at them in person. I love how the back cover is as well. There's a footprint here, a paw print, that represents one of the other characters in the book who there wasn't room for him on the cover, and he's not quite the main character, so he doesn't get that privilege, but he is included in some small way, and you will definitely feel his presence throughout the book. Thorin is definitely my second baby. I had so much fun working on this, and even though last year was a crazy year, I'm still really happy that I managed to get this book out there and into the world despite everything. A huge thank you to everybody who bought copies of my book, came out to see me during the few in-person events I was able to have, and who left reviews on Thorin. Your support really means the world to me, and I'm so thankful to have had you along for this journey so far. I can't wait to meet more book lovers in the future. So I'll just read you the back summary. 9 years ago, Skytown soldiers brutally murdered Kenton's family. Now, those same men aim to return and destroy Kenton's hard-won, idyllic life amongst the peaceful shifter people of the Hinnom Forest. Meanwhile, Lane Riven, dragged from Earth to Thorin against his will, is stuck navigating an unfamiliar school, his jerk of an uncle, and the rising threat posed by the outpost terrorist. When their paths clash amidst tragedy and betrayal, Kenton realizes he and his best friend Bo may have rushed headlong into a situation too impossible to fix. Time is running out as Frick season closes in, and their only shot at victory hinges on outrunning the seasoned bounty hunters, savage creatures, and unpredictably violent weather trying to kill them every step of the way. Thorin was definitely a book that I poured my heart and soul into. Since I read you a little bit of action from Tedenbarr, I'd like to read maybe a little bit of a quieter moment from Thorin. There's a little bit of spoilers here, not too much, but if you haven't read the book yet and you'd rather wait, then just skip ahead. I'll put a timestamp on the screen so you know where to resume. This comes from chapter 7, when our protagonists have met each other. "Hi, Mom," Lane whispered as he entered her room. "I came as soon as I could." The flowers he'd left yesterday had been placed into a vase and water added. All the dead petals had been picked off, and, no longer wilting, the red and yellow blossoms had regained their cheering effect. "I've been crazy worried about you. Peter told me yesterday you have Bowman's disease, but the Azraq got attacked before he could tell me what that means." "In a moment. How are you? Were you safe last night? Who's this?" Kenton came haltingly into the room, shoulders held tight and high, hair falling in front of and obscuring his face as he kept his gaze on the floor. "I'm fine, and this is Kenton," Lane started, nudging the other teen when he realized that was all the name he had. "Also. Kenton also," he finished. "He's from New Little Rock and got stranded here once the frick started, so he's staying with us for a bit." "That's so nice of you, darling." Lane pulled his lips into a smile that was all teeth and no heart. All the times he'd lied to Mom and never felt any guilt, why this occasion felt any different, especially when he was looking to save her, he didn't know. But the uneasy feeling sat heavy on his chest, despite knowing the truth wouldn't benefit anybody. There weren't supposed to be cameras in the rooms, but Lane wasn't taking any chances. He didn't want to be the next to get dragged to Skytown. So there we have a little bit of a moment between Lane and his mother, and then there's Kenton hovering in the background. It's a more quiet moment, but it sets up some important information for what is going to happen next. One of the most fun things about this novel is the fact that I commissioned my cover artist to also include some illustrations. I can't show you all of them because some of them are a little bit spoilery, but that's something I've always loved about novels is it's all text, and then all of a sudden in certain fantasy novels you'll find an illustration hidden here or there, and I love that so much I just had to include that in Thorin. So there you have it. These are my 2 book babies for Indie April. Please check them out if you feel so inclined. They are available everywhere books are sold. You can order them from Amazon. You can also go through Barnes & Noble. There are ebook versions, print versions, hopefully at some point audiobook versions, but I don't have those yet. But definitely ebook and print. You can get these pretty much anywhere that books are sold. This one is medieval action and adventure, and this one is YA sci-fi, and there's lots to enjoy in both these books, even though they're very, very different. Make sure to go to Twitter and check out the Indie April tag to see what cool new books you'll discover this year and add to your ever-mounting TBR. Until next time, happy reading. ETJ out.